I fucked up today, I fucked up before. I fucked up so much I can't keep track anymore. I fucked up on girls, I fucked up this song. I fucked up on my sister, my dad and my mom. I fucked up on everyone, I fucked up on me. I fucked up with money and man, nothing is free. I fucked up on Letterman, I fucked up on stage. I fucked up on time and I fucked up too late. But now, I'm ready to win. I stand on a river, I stand on a stage, hoping for glory, or maybe today. Cause it's all a mistake and a beautiful mess, like your next door neighbor when you saw him undress. And I'll do it forever, do nothing but fail, a student of error who can only prevail. Cause learning is trying and trying is hard, when it feels like falling's gonna tear you apart. But now, I'm ready to win. Yeah, now, I'm ready. So turn on the house lights, turn to your left, shake hands with someone that you'll probably forget, and tell them they're great, tell them they're splendid, no matter how all of their fuck-ups have ended. Tell them they're free from whatever happened, from all of the haters who need someone to slap them. Just go and fuck up, fucking up, nothing but fucking up, never fuck enough. And then you'll be strong, and then you'll be fearless, cause you've done it all and your tear ducts are tearless. And then you'll remember there's a fire in your heart and a dream in your head and permission to start. And from out of the silence you will hear your voice like a big fucking siren, and you won't have a choice. And you will stand up, throw caution to the wind, and you will scream out that you are ready to win. Are you ready? Ready to win.
Fucking All right. Hello, everyone. We're live here. My name is Marcia Drucker, and I'm the founder of Fuckup Nights Toronto. Super excited for our session today, which is a Fuckup AMA. But before I get to that, and before I get to introducing our awesome guests, a little bit about Fuckup Nights Toronto. So Fuckup Nights Toronto is part of a global community, global speaker series that started in Mexico City in 2012, and today takes place in over 300 cities all over the world. In Toronto, we kicked it off here in March of 2017. We've been sharing for Fuckups for just over 3 years now. And now that we've shifted our format to online, we've changed things up a little bit. For anybody that's been to one of our regular monthly events that we host at Shopify, you know that our talks are very practiced. You know, our speakers have 10 minutes, 10 images. We didn't think that was right for these times. We wanted to keep it a little bit more conversational. We really wanted to give our guests a little bit more of a chance to dive into their fuck-ups, a little bit more of an opportunity to share more fuck-ups throughout this hour, but also to get an update on where they are now, how these times are affecting their business and themselves, and just really create this opportunity for our audience and our community, which is you guys, to engage and to ask really great questions. So at the end of this, there is going to be an opportunity for an AMA. Make sure that you're entering your questions in the comments wherever you're watching. So I'm really curious where everybody is tuning in from. So the beauty of doing these events online is that they're so much more accessible now. People are tuning in from all over the world. I know that our community is mostly from Toronto, but let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Really curious to see if we have anybody from outside of Toronto watching us here today. So before I get to introducing our awesome guests, I really just want to say a huge thank you to our lead partner, which is Xero Accounting. If you're a small business or a startup, or you work for a small business, you know that accounting can be pretty time consuming, and it could really take your attention away from what the most important thing is, which is really just moving your business forward and focusing on your customers and focusing on your day-to-day. So Xero makes accounting super easy. It makes business really beautiful. They create this awesome online cloud-based accounting platform, and they're offering a free trial for our community for 30 days. So check it out at xero.com. We're going to post it in the comments as well. You could just click the link, and you can also book a demo to see it live yourself. So thank you again to Xero to making our events possible. Now, today we have two awesome guests here from TREC Brands. And TREC Brands is a conscious cannabis company. We're going to explain what that is just in a little bit. But this event should be really relatable to anybody. You could be in the cannabis industry, but the fuck-ups that we're going to talk about are varied and many. We're going to talk about product. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to be talking about communicating with your board, fundraising, all kinds of stuff that is going to be relatable to any industry that you're in, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, or if you're not working for a startup. If you're just here to hear a good fuck up, you're in the right spot. You're going to hear a lot of great stories. So today with me, we have Trang Trinh, who is the CEO and founding director of TREC Brands. And we have Pete Mihalik, who is the VP of partnerships and sales. So we do something a little bit different with Fuck Up Nights. You know, I think you can read a bio on any of our speakers very easily, where I'm not going to bore you with that. What I'm going to get our speakers to do is to actually introduce themselves with a little bit of a fun fact, something that you're not going to find online. So Trang, do you want to kick it off? What's something that people aren't going to find out about you online?
Sure. Thanks, Marcia. And thank you so much for having Pete and I talk about our fuck-ups today. So I'm Trang Trinh, and I'm the very proud CEO of TREC Brands. One thing that I don't think people will find out about me online is that I love to sleep in. I'm not a morning person whatsoever. And I know there's lots of articles out there that talk about, you know, high performing CEOs and how they wake up at 4 a.m. and get their day started. That's just not me. I usually now during the pandemic have been sleeping in until about 8 a.m. every day, just so that I'm ready for my 9 a.m. calls. So that's a little bit about something that you may not know about me.
I love that. That's not that late. 8 is still early. What about you, Pete? What's something that's different about you?
Thanks, Marcia. And Trang, I also like to sleep in. But something unique about me, I would say, is that I enjoy the sport of triathlon and I do a lot of open water training. But funny enough, I'm actually petrified of lake water and specifically about not being able to see the ground below me. So oftentimes when I have to swim alone, it's this fear that's instilled in me that I'm in the lake on by myself and there would be a creature swimming up to grab me.
Oh my gosh, that's that's crazy that you're still able to get through that and to complete those triathlons. Good for you. So to dive into it, I think for anybody that's not familiar with TREC, we'd love to learn a little bit more about what you guys do and what's the founding story. Trang, you have such an interesting journey into the industry. You know, you've spent 4.5 years before this working at Deloitte, and you took such a risk jumping into such a brand new industry and starting a business. What did that journey look like for you, and what is TREC?
Sure. So let me take a step back. So when I was at Deloitte, I actually had the incredible opportunity to cover the cannabis sector from an M&A lens. And what that means is that I was able to work on a few of the large transactions in this space. In 2017, 2018, the M&A world around cannabis was astronomical. There were many deals being performed on a daily basis. So I had the opportunity to do that, but then also work with LPs in setting up their operations and also working with a few of the different provincial government boards and setting up their distribution as well. So I think, honestly, Deloitte was such a great learning platform for me. And during my time there, although it seemed like a huge, massive corporation, also provided me with ample opportunity to be very entrepreneurial, building up a team around me, finding and winning over clients and projects, implementing processes and structures with a new team within Deloitte. I feel all of those skill sets really help me in my world today. So TREC was started in January 2019. So we're a year and a half old now. But two of our brands, we have 3 brands, Wink, Bliss, and Thumbs Up, but 2 of them existed prior to TREC. Wink existed, was created by Charles Caboth, who is he's on our board and he's the guru of the hospitality space in the GTA. And Bliss was started by Bassam Hanna, who is our chairman. And he was the original co-founder and CEO of TerraSend. So they both brought me in to amalgamate Wink and Bliss into what we call TREC today. And I think what really convinced me was really the foundational values that TREC was started upon. So TREC affectionately stands for trust, respect, equality, and compassion. And those are the values that drive all of our business decisions every single day. It was really, for me, the ability to design a business model where we are able to give back to the communities. We pledge to donate 10% of our profits back to the communities that we operate in based on our consumers' choice. So that was pretty much the biggest reason. And then the second was the ability to make an impact, and a large impact by the reach that we have. And that's what myself, Pete, and our entire TREC team strives for and wakes up to do every day, is that we get to do this amazing job and then give 10% back to the communities.
I love that. I feel like that really resonates with me, and I think it really resonates with our community as well. We're looking for brands that make an impact, and to purchase from a brand that actually does good for the world. So absolutely love what you guys do, and so excited for this conversation. So Pete, what about you? What was it that drew you to the cannabis industry? You've had such a varied and interesting career before this. Take us through that, and what was it about cannabis and TREC that drew you in?
For sure. So I've been an entrepreneur since the start of my career, and I've always been drawn to industries that I took a personal interest in. As my background, whether it was skiing, snowboarding, live events, and now cannabis. Years later, they'll analyze my career and say, wow, this guy really knew how to play it. But truly to be a part of a new industry and build it from scratch alongside my closest colleagues and friends. Trang and I actually went to school together at Western. Bassam I knew from the same program. that was a dream. When they approached me and shared this vision and this idea for this business, I was very excited. I was very excited to be a part of that. But more importantly, I think outside of the Rockstar team, the fact that these two individuals, and myself included, having the ability to try and change the perception and the way that people look at cannabis and do it in a socially conscious way was a winning formula for me. And really, that's what drew me, to this industry, to the business, to work alongside, Trang and Bassam, but also to change that perception of cannabis and that stigma associated with it, and do it in a way that's socially conscious and build on that mission.
Yeah, I love that. So diving into some fuck ups and some challenges that you guys have had along your journey since we are at Fuck Up Nights, I think your business model is really interesting and really impressive. Unlike a lot of other cannabis startups and a lot of other cannabis companies, you don't actually touch the product. You're working with amazing licensed producers, and you're basically like a brand house and marketing house for these awesome brands. So I'm curious, in that journey and along since you're such a new company, have there been any missteps in choosing the products, or just deciding how to tackle it from that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely one of the biggest fuck ups on our side was when we were launching our inaugural SKUs. And the premise of overcommitting to product because of that excitement to it. And I'll share the story in detail. But when we launched our business at the time, product was extremely limited. There wasn't enough supply to fill retail stores. And this was around, by the time we put everything together, we were looking at around April, and we wanted to launch our first 1 or 2 SKUs and bring them to market by June, right? To take advantage of the 100 days of summer. And the advice and the recommendations that we received from our advisors was, look, guys, there's not a lot of it out there. Just buy whatever you can get your hands on. Buy everything and anything, right? And that really kind of stuck with us. So initially, we went out.
Buy all the product.
Buy all the product you can, right? That's literally what it is. Yeah, we laughed about that to this day. So we went out to market, and we found some incredible strains and some great partners that we could bring product to market with. But the timing was key. We needed these LPs to really deliver on our aggressive timeline, and that's to launch product in like 2 to 3 months and bring it to market in June. And not every LP, can handle such an aggressive timeline. So one of our first partners, was offering us a great product, and we had all our eggs in that one basket, and then it fell apart. They just weren't able to deliver due to internal operational reasons. And you got to understand, this is a super fast-paced industry, right? So we're handling, we're parallel pathing legal work with operations, with product selection, trying to bring SKUs to market as fast as possible. And we didn't even have the legal paperwork to protect us in this place. So I remember getting the call from our partner, and I was running point on the project, and it was particularly devastating for me to hear this, that it couldn't be done. So I actually, walked down to their office and showed up at their office and demanded a meeting with their execs. And I still remember this, the receptionist, I'm like, yeah, I'm here to see so-and-so. No, they're not expecting me, but I got to chat with them right now. Got to clear this up. We got to make it work. And unfortunately, there was just no way around it. There was no way to fast track and make our aggressive timelines happen. So we had to go back to the drawing board. Luckily, we put the whole team together, it was all hands on deck. We ended up finding a new partner with an incredible product that was perfect for us to launch. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. But we were so excited that this opportunity came up and kind of represented itself that we made the same mistake. We overcommitted and put all our eggs now in that basket. And I think our biggest challenge at the time, and still to this day, although there's more of it available, is just the lack of data in the market, right? We couldn't quantify what we needed to fill demand. There wasn't at the time, we didn't have the data available to properly do demand planning and see what our consumers would bear. So honestly, we ended up buying way too much product, which is still a big asterisk on our balance sheet. And what's worse is during this whole experience, we unintentionally stuffed the channel with some of our biggest provincial distributors and provincial partners. And I think at the time, the whole industry, including the provincial boards, had this unrealistic expectation of how things will roll out. You know, in Ontario, yes, there's only 24 stores now, but we're going to start opening them up as of October 2019. That never happened, right? So we received POs from the provinces, and we were so fired up and so fucking excited to fill them. We're like, yes, money, revenue, let's do it. The problem was we didn't really consider some of the exposure and some of the clauses that we were exposed to with our vendor agreements. And just to clarify, a lot of the provincial boards in Canada have a clause that essentially says, if we still have product in our warehouse that's still dated 6 to 9 months, we have the right to return that product to you, right? So again, with Ontario specifically, we unintentionally stuffed the channel thinking there was going to be this massive demand and influx, of stores. And we thought we'd be able to sell $30 gram product, in the open market. But the end result was that, it didn't pan out that way. There's much more competition coming to market. The OCS specifically was sitting on a ton of our product in the DC that in the end, we weren't comfortable releasing to the end consumer. That the age of that product, was 6 to 9 months plus, and we didn't want them to receive that certain product. So we ended up taking it back. It was a byproduct of overcommitting to too much, not having the data available, and getting excited about, filling POs without actually taking a step back and looking at the demand and planning ahead and, considering market realities and where things will go.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So while you were going through that, what were some key lessons that you learned? And, if you can kind of give yourself advice, if you were just starting out again, what would you have done differently? Is there anything that you could have done differently?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think back regularly to that. And, one of the things that I would say is trust your gut, right? Sometimes if things are too good to be true, perhaps they are, in the case or in the sense of, the POs, be patient. And it's extremely difficult to balance that and do so in this industry when things are moving a mile a minute. But patience is key. And I think that's what we've seen this year in 2020. When COVID hit, we took a bit of a step back and we were retrenched and we slowed down our operations just to see how things will pan out. And I think it was a very good decision on a number of products that we were going to launch. And we kind of waited and see how things would pan out, how price compression would affect, the market. And it was a really, really good call. And just don't get too excited, right? I think, we were so excited about all these things that were happening last year. And, it's take a pause, look at the data if it's available, and trust your gut and be patient.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be a big theme throughout this entire conversation. Just, looking at data is definitely a big theme that comes up through a lot of our talks, just kind of rushing into things. And it happens to everybody, I think, but especially in such a new, exciting industry, it's, you're so gung-ho to just go for it. But yeah, you definitely do have to take a step back sometimes.
And plan A, plan B, and plan C is absolutely crucial, right? Like very early on, we just had plan A, and quickly we learned, man, we need to parallel path with a number of different partners. We need to have, backup plan, a backup plan. And I think we're very good at that right now. We think about things, based on our past failures.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you kind of realized that error and, the fuck up that happened there, how did that affect you personally? And how did you get through it on a personal level, setting the business aside?
You know what? It was a big hit. Right? Like mentally, personally, like, I failed the team, I failed our board, I failed everything. It was so hard, right? And I'm sure everybody, on this chat can relate. But I think what really helped is having an amazing, supportive, and collaborative team, right? Like we're the style when if shit goes wrong, everybody jumps in, takes a pause on the regular, duties and collaborates to make things happen. And we have that GSD mentality, all of us as a team. So even though I was running point on the program or the task at hand, Trang jumped in, Kayla jumped in, Alex jumped in, everybody jumped in to make sure that we have a solution, we could fix what has happened, and that really helped.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys have such a fantastic team. So Trang, when it came to communicating with the board and, especially when some of these fuck ups were happening, other things that have happened along your journey, what did that look like? And How was that different from your journey at Deloitte, going to running a company and communicating with a board that way?
Great question. So I had to communicate Pete's fuck up to the board. Just joking, Pete. In our fuck up. Honestly, in the first year, 2019 of operations, I admittedly was terrible at managing the board's expectations and communicating to the board. In my previous world at Deloitte, I would say that, deadlines were deadlines. And when you committed a deadline to a client, you moved mountains to meet that deadline, whether it meant we were, pulling all-nighters, working all hours of the night. You do what you can to get there. But what I realized was in a nascent industry like cannabis, where regulations are still being written, companies are still getting started. Even if you moved Mount Kilimanjaro, you wouldn't be able to meet the deadlines and expectations that we set for ourselves. And, in a way, it was on us to manage those expectations. Every time I went to the board in 2019, I had to communicate. We missed a timeline. We missed a deadline. This isn't going to happen. We missed a revenue target. And it happened so often that when I did go to the board, I was so nervous. And every single time I literally thought the world was going to end. And I had so much stress and anxiety. So that was really the fuck up there was, we set stretch goals for ourselves and our team. And then that's what we communicated to the board. In reality, we just had to manage their expectations a bit better. I realized that we were giving them hard dates and giving them target revenues that were stretched for us, that motivated us to get to a good spot. But it caused the board, because they're not in the day-to-day operations, fixate on that particular date. Okay, September 20th, this is when this is supposed to be launched. Where is it? Or there's a specific revenue target. Okay, we get communicated, let's say $500,000 in revenue this month. But in reality, because they were so fixated, we didn't actually talk about, there actually could be some risks there that we can't get there, but there actually could be some opportunities and some upsides to that as well. So now when we communicate with our board, it's really, we give them the full context. Listen, this is the whole roadmap. But these are certain things that could deter us from getting to there. But these are also opportunities that could, get us there quicker or get us a higher revenue target. So it's really about communicating and giving the full context there.
Got it. And I also think it's interesting, in your industry, it's so new and it's so evolving and moving so quickly. With your board, I'm sure, some of them are probably very embedded in the space. Other members are probably not living and breathing it every day like you are. How do you kind of handle communication around that? When you really want to move something forward, maybe they don't agree with it, but that it's the right decision just because you're living and breathing it every day. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so great question. And we're going through some of that right now. It's really being organized and putting together, if we want to move something forward, let's put together a succinct business case, a one-pager, all the pros, all the cons, these are the opportunities and the risk. And then it helps them organize the business opportunity in their minds too, right? Because they're not involved in the day-to-day, you don't want to go to them with a 20-page business case and expect them to read that and get back to you within 24 hours when you have to make the decision. So you really have to pick and choose the key points that you want to present to them. This actually heads into another fuck up. If there's time, I can kind of speak to it. So really, because they're not involved into the day-to-day operations, every touch point with them is so crucial. And it's even when we communicate, I actually have a WhatsApp group with them too, so that we can communicate things on the regular and in a timely manner. But it's really, there's a lot of communication, and you have to open the communication flow both ways on a regular basis. But we recently made the mistake a couple months ago where we notified the board about a couple of our products that needed a price or margin drop. But we failed to mention that this is only 2 products out of our 10 products that we have. So our other SKUs were actually performing quite well with healthy margins, but without the full context, it seemed like we were coming to them with 2 big problems, and then the panic button was pushed from our end. And then it really put our whole business model into question. And literally all the execs, including myself, thought we were going to get fired. And this is already, on top of the stress and anxiety of the pandemic and COVID. So everyone's emotions are out of whack. But for me personally, I had so much anxiety, so much stress. And I wanted to provide a perfect answer, a roadmap that we're getting back on the right track. But I couldn't formulate that with the amount of stress and anxiety that I had on my shoulders. So I took these things, and when things like this happen, very personally. And I was scared. And what I actually ended up doing was talking to a business coach, a therapist. And she really helped me depersonalize the whole situation, break it down into the different components, and then to understand why the alarm bells were ringing from the board's perspective. So, that actually really helped myself. And I relayed some of the key messages to the team as well as I was learning about myself and why I felt that way. And to be honest, after a couple of weeks of further analysis of our business model, we were able to get back on the right track. We were able to convince the board that the business model is in fact working. It just needed some tweaks, some improvements, which, all businesses do. But now is not the time to throw in the towel or ring the alarm bells whatsoever. And it was actually quite the opposite, that there are so many opportunities that we are seeing now without that stress and anxiety sort of fogging our path, that that our business is doing well, and we're an asset-light business model. As Pete mentioned earlier, we've got a healthy balance sheet, and we just need to be nimble and make smart moves in the next couple of months to properly rebound out of this COVID situation, the pandemic, and what was a slow start to the year for the cannabis industry itself. But rambling a little bit here, but I mean, the stress and the anxiety and the negative energy was so much on all of us that it was hard for us to see that clear path. And once that was lifted and we felt that, okay, let's decouple this and what does the business actually need, and kind of put the emotions aside, it really helped the entire team get on the right track.
That's awesome. I'm really glad that you were able to take those steps, and you can't just do it by yourself. As a founder and as a CEO, you need support and you need mentors and you need people to talk to. So I'm really glad that you were able to really deal with that effectively. So before we jump into impacts of COVID and how you guys are doing and managing through this time, I'd love to spend a little bit more time on product. So you guys have 3 main brands that you're marketing, and I know that one of them is really a premium product that's higher priced. How do you guys decide which SKUs to really push, and has there been any pushback from consumers in terms of a premium product, especially during these times? Are people a little bit more price conscious, or what does that sort of look like?
For sure, and I can take that one, Trank. And it's interesting, Marcia, because this really segues well into, I think, another fuck up that we experienced when we initially launched our inaugural SKUs under the Wink brand. And, really, when we first launched, our position was, hey, we're going to get out there and sell a $30 gram, and it's going to be amazing because we got this epic story and this awesome branding, and everybody wants to smoke mid-range THC product and go to the club and have a good time, right? This is what we're thinking about. Everybody's going to be like that. We're going to open up new consumer segments. Yeah, bullshit, right? But look, we didn't have the data. We didn't know how that would properly play out. And the reality is that the majority of the consumer that is walking through the legal retail channel and also, illegal is looking for a fair price product at a high THC range. Now, to clarify, our inaugural SKUs were amazing. I mean, to this day, I'm the biggest supporter, of Wink number 1 specifically. It's my favorite strain, Super Congo Haze. I just think that the consumer wasn't shopping that way, and it hurt our sell-through and our velocity. Again, like 80-90% of the consumers want as high THC product as possible, and they're very price conscious. So, to answer your question, I think there's definitely a place for premium and high-end brands in this space, and that is still a big part of our strategy. But currently, it's not a large portion of the market. And if you want to fill your valuations and achieve the margins in this business that are so ever slim, you really need to focus on products that respond to that main consumer segment and address that key total addressable market. And that is the 80 to 90% of the consumers that are walking through the stores. So, as we started to get more and more data from the market and started to see what's actually happening and what's selling and what's moving, we quickly recognized that perhaps we don't have the right product. Perhaps we don't have the right pricing strategy and not the right brand. And for us, we're so asset light, we're so nimble, we have great partnerships with our LPs. We were able to quickly pivot and, take a step back, look at our strategy. And what we decided to do is we actually launched a new brand that spoke directly to that consumer. And that was the Thumbs Up brand. And Thumbs Up is all about, it's a no-frills brand, well-priced, really good strains that are high in THC, exactly what, the traditional consumer segment is looking for. And, they're to date, the products that are under that portfolio or that brand are some of our best sellers. So I think, initially part of our fuck up was positioning one of our brands a certain way and assuming that we're going to really win and do quite well. I think the market consumer wasn't quite there yet and still isn't to a certain extent. And we had to take a step back and really look at the data and determine how we can speak to that consumer segment and provide products and launch products that meet those needs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that brand that you're talking about. I went to the NKPR TIFF party, I think last year. I met some of your team there. That was the first time that I experienced it, and I thought it was beautiful. But yeah, you got to listen to that feedback from your consumers, and Thumbs Up is so cool. I love the branding there, and I'm sure it's going to be super successful. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what's going on right now, the way that your company is going through these times, how it's been impacted by COVID. So first of all, from a business perspective, I'm really interested in what that sort of looked like. I'm sure, in some ways it's probably really taking off on the e-commerce side. I'm sure that demand has gone up, but you've definitely been hit on the retail side. Am I correct to assume that? And just what has been the initial impact and how are you getting through it now?
For sure. I can take that one, Pete. So I would say that as you continue to hear, the cannabis industry is pretty much pandemic proof. During times like these, I feel that consumers need vices, whether it's alcohol or it's cannabis. But what we did notice was consumer preferences changed. Especially when we're all cooped up inside. The products that we originally had were pre-rolled joints. Convenient, you pick it up on the way to a dinner party, on the way to the club, you're going to the park with friends. And we noticed that that was a product category that declined, whereas consumers are now having more time on their hands to buy bulk flower and roll their own joints. So I would say that, again, back to Pete's point, is that we do need to continue to analyze the data there. And because everything's shifted more to e-commerce and online, we've also shifted a lot of our marketing strategies as well to looking at, programmatic ads, digital ads, and having more of a social online presence. Whereas if we think back to 2019, we actually did a lot of, boots on the ground events, in-person events, visiting a lot of the retailers, and hosting a lot of our own branded events to get the brand out there. And what we've learned was during this time, of course, you can't do that, but we've actually transitioned more to an online events platform, and we've seen a lot of traction with that as well. A couple of weeks ago, we hosted a Zoom virtual event with the strain hunters. So Arian and Dust, who are the guys that found the Super Congo haze and a lot of the other strains that we have out in the market, like white lemon, super lemon haze, lemon skunk. They go around the world and find these amazing land-raised strains in the Congo, in the jungle. So we hosted almost like an AMA with them, which went pretty well, and our consumers loved it. Not only consumers joined, but also we had the provincial boards, like a lot of the team members from Alberta and Ontario, the OCS joined as well, which is really neat. So we pivoted to a lot of more online platform, virtual events like yourself. And when we found that has also really been working. But I would say from a team perspective, I think that we've done a pretty good job, Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, transitioning to a work from home state. We actually transitioned to this model a week before Ontario declared it an emergency and to shut down all offices to be safe. And, we've been able to continue. We live on Zoom. We continue with our, Monday motivation meetings to set everyone up for the week. Daily, we do 420 squats. So we all log into Zoom at 420 every day to do at least 20 squats together online. And then every Friday morning, we do Gratitude Fridays, and we talk to everyone on our team about what we were grateful for, whether it was a business gratitude or a personal gratitude. Early on, we sent our team puzzles to keep them busy in the evenings and on weekends. And just from a mental health perspective, we noticed that our team was burning out, because work from home doesn't mean you work less. I think from our point of view, it means you work way more because you're not taking the proper breaks to go pick up lunch or go pick up coffee. So we implemented a mandatory 1 hour break during the day, 12 to 1, where no one is expected to answer emails or text messages or Slack messages, anything like that. And it's opportunity for our team members to eat their lunch or go out for a walk during the day. So I think that's been really important as well.
That's awesome. It sounds like you guys are adjusting really well. And I'm so happy to hear that, the business wasn't affected that badly or that drastically. That's really awesome.
Excited to get everyone back into the office, though.
Totally.
Yeah, I can imagine you guys have such a great team. Everybody's so entrepreneurial. You guys are so close. So I'm sure everybody's missing it. But it's nice that you're still able to do all of that fun culture stuff over Zoom and kind of bring it to life in that way. I think that's really great. In terms of a mental health perspective for you as, leaders of this company, what has that been like during these last couple months? What was it like at the very beginning, and how did you get adjusted, and what kind of things have you been doing to help yourself from a mental health perspective to not burn out and to be able to lead your team through this?
You want me to go first?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so personally for me is exercise is huge, right? Which is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of 420 squats. Just getting everybody to get up at one point in their day, stand up from their chair, and move around. I laugh because every day at 420, my partner at home, I could just hear her giggling because she could hear me jump in or squatting and motivating the team to do same, but. Take the time to take care of yourself and your body, right? So, whether it's a run, a bike, a walk, whatever it may be, just get out there, move around, especially when you're training. To your point, when we're coped up, your office and your desk may be your kitchen table, right? So it's very hard to disconnect from work. And as hard as we all work and our team works, trying to drive the business forward, we're always at our computer. So taking those breaks, I think, is critical. And then, finding a way to get exercise in there is key, and then encouraging your team to do same. I think open communication as well. With my team, I'm a big fan of my direct team. That is, just check in regularly, make sure everybody's doing well. See how you can help, how you can support them. Outside of the business environment, right? Just make sure you have that personal connection with them.
That's awesome. And what about you, Trang?
Pete pretty much covered all of the bases there, but I would say that
sleep.
Yeah, sleep. The main communication to the team, and what I stand by is that everyone needs to take care of themselves first and take care of their families, and then TREC comes second, because there is a saying, what is it on the airplane? Like, please put your mask on first before you can assist somebody else.
Totally.
That's sort of the mentality that we have as an exec team, is that, every team member needs to be healthy and take care of their own health and their own mental health. And then, during the pandemic, it is a stressful time. It's like everyone is anxious, nobody knows, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the beginning of, in March and April. So taking care of your own self first is extremely important. For me, also exercise has been hugely helpful. I'm a huge fan of big group classes. So Barry's boot camp, going to spin classes. So when that was taken out of my schedule and I couldn't, engage in those types of activities, I was really struggling. So I actually invested in a Peloton. So I've been trying to do those spin classes a few times a week, just to help keep me active and sane.
That's awesome. Really great that you were able to pivot to that. It's so important. Awesome. So I want to jump into some audience Q&A, and anybody, if you have a question, wherever you're watching, just drop it into the comments. We'll try to get to as many as possible. But we did get some great questions already. So let's see. Here is one from TE. What, if anything, was done to understand the customer as you were launching your product? Was there an opportunity to run experiments to understand your consumer segments?
Yeah, and I can take the first part of this, Trang. But a big part of what we do, TE, is we build very comprehensive business cases on any product that we consider bringing to market. And our organization fundamentally is extremely data-driven. So we scrutinize and analyze any sales data that we can get our hands on. We look at what has happened in the States as a more mature market in some of the states that have been operational for quite some time in cannabis. And then we compare those results and the data that we have in Canada to see where products will win. On top of that, our VP marketing and our product team is exceptional at building compelling stories and understanding consumer segmentation and doing a ton of research on what consumers are longing for. We work with agency partners, and we also do our own intercept interviews at retail stores to try and gather as much data as we can directly from consumers to understand their buying behaviors, what they're looking for in products, so that we can amalgamate all that and just have a very cohesive and all-encompassing strategy when we bring product to market.
Awesome. Great answer. A question from Josh. What would you say is TREC's biggest obstacle as a brand?
I can tackle this one, Pete. I would say there's really two, but the first and foremost is that because we are a house of brands, we actually don't own any of the licenses or the cannabis licenses to get a product out to market. So we have to rely on our partners, anywhere from cultivation to processing to packaging and shipping it out the door to distribution out to the different provincial boards. So in a way, it's positive because we're asset light and we get a chance to focus on sales and marketing, and the LPs get to focus on what they're good at is growing the product, producing it, and packaging it. But at the same time, we are, most of the time at their mercy and their timelines and, their the line time and getting our products through the door. But I would say that we've been very fortunate and that we've found incredible partners to work with over the past year and a half, and that we're now in a very good rhythm with all of our partners in being able to get product quickly out to market.
That's awesome. A question that came through from my team is that it's super impressive that you guys raised $10 million for TREC in the last year. What was the fundraising experience like for you? And is there anything that you would have done differently going back to that?
The fundraising experience, it was fun, but also a ton of work. I would say for 6 to 8 weeks, myself, Pete, Kayla, Alex, and our board didn't sleep. We probably took over 200 meetings in person mostly, and some over telephone. And the other thing that, we did was we had to make sure that all of our investor base or our potential investor base bought into our 10% for Good program, that they were okay with us giving 10% of our profits back to the communities. What surprised us was that this was something that a lot of them bought into. So we raised 10 million, but we were actually oversubscribed and had to give $2 million back. So we were sitting at about 12. And we were very selective in who we brought on as our investor base as well. It wasn't just a passive investment. Anyone that became part of TREC needs to bring value, and they need to add value. So we went and looked for money outside of the cannabis world. And we looked at, companies or individuals that we thought would be able to help drive our brands forward. And that included, Charles from Ink Entertainment, and like a lot of other people in the hospitality space. At the time, we were thinking, well, we can't really market and do advertisement because of the way Health Canada regulations are. But you know what? You can do them in 19 plus age-gated environments. So by bringing on a lot of these investors that run hospitality industry in Toronto and the GTA and across Canada, it really helps us get into those establishments and get our brands across to the end consumer. And then not only hospitality, but, PR agencies, and just other investors that bring value from like a branding perspective or a marketing perspective, where they've done it in CPG before, are hugely valuable to us, and is very much why we are as successful as we are today, is being able to have an investor base that supports us day in and day out, and always lends a hand.
That's awesome. A question that came through to us from Instagram, from Ray. He's wondering how your team approaches disagreement and conflict resolution. I'm kind of curious about that too. You guys have such an entrepreneurial team. I'm sure there's some clashes. How do you guys get through it?
I'll give you my take. We get in the war room and we just yell at each other until we solve things. No, I think it's a great question. And honestly, we're so close and tight knit, like we're family. And that's what's great about a very, I wouldn't say small team, but a nimble team, and one that, is involved in every aspect of the business and understands, our goals and where we're trying to get to. We hammer things out, right? Like, we're very open and honest with one another. No politics, really. To my earlier point, assuming that we could still get into the office, and this is what I miss most about, COVID in place, is the fact that, I love getting into that war room, into our boardroom, where we could whiteboard things and strategize and spend, 2-3 hours in there until we come up with a solution to a problem we're faced with. But I think that's what it's about, right? It's just being very open and, calling each other out. If we do have a disagreement, doing so politely, but being very honest and transparent.
That's really great.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think at the end of the day, we all come back to the same conclusion or the same spot, where we know that because we're so passionate about the business, everyone wants their voice to be heard, and that everyone is of the mentality of trying to do what's best for the company. And I think that's how we also get over, disagreements or fights or anything like that, is that each member we trust has the best interest of the company in their mind, and that they're really just trying to vocalize or push forward what they truly think is best for TREC.
I think another thing that really helps, Marcia, is like trying, great leadership, obviously, thanks to you, but having, we call this a plan on a page, right? But it's literally one page that shows, here's our mission, here's our revenue objectives, here's how we get there, here's our marketing strategy. It's all there. And if we ever have a disagreement, we refer back to that and say, well, are we driving the business forward based on, the guiding principles that we all agree to and we set in place to have that plan here on the page? And I think that's very helpful as well. If we ever come to that scenario, we could always refer back to that and, well, no, doesn't make sense with the plan, throw it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, great answer. Another question that came through from Instagram from Jessica. She's wondering, what are some challenges and opportunities when it comes to packaging and branding in the industry here? And are there any fuck ups that you think are happening there in terms of like how heavily regulated it is?
Okay, go ahead. Where do we start?
Yeah. Well, I would say that in terms of packaging and branding, there's very limited leeway of what you can and cannot do. So, I mean, in terms of any fuck ups there, I would say in terms of like all of our labels, there's like very minimal room for error. But the one, I guess, maybe fuck up that we did was actually our first inaugural product came out in these cases that are so difficult to open. They're not only child-proof, but they're adult-proof, and so you have to really have all 3 points of this package. Oh, here, let me just grab it and show you.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah, so if you just tried to open it, you have to have all 3 points in at the same time to open it. So we actually had a lot of people message us, how do you open the goddamn package? Like, I spent $30 on this package and I can't open it. And people were on Reddit using hammers and, big tools to try to get it open. So that was definitely a consumer usage error that we didn't test, and we just thought the package looked cool. Oh, it's going to pass Health Canada regulations. Kids can't get into it, but didn't realize it was hard for adults to get into it too. So what we did to get around it was we actually ended up running the Wink #1 challenge and showing people not being able to open the package, and then running a series of videos to show people actually how to open it. So we kind of added some humor to it. I think it still lives on our Wink page in some of our stories, where we probably had over 30 people send us videos of not being able to open the package.
That's hilarious. I feel like I want to share that from Fuck Up Nights. That's some good content. Here's a question from Lauren. Lauren, shout out. Thank you so much for all your help with getting to know the industry. But she's asking, Trang, what was the biggest obstacle in building your team? What practices do you use for hiring? Great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. I would say that the biggest obstacle in building the team is that, honestly, we had so many incredible people that want to be a part of TREC. So having to say no to people and not having a place for them yet. I think that we will have lots of opportunities as we continue to grow the business, but we've had a lot of great resumes come our way, and we wish that we could take everybody. But at the end of the day, we're still a very small and nimble company. In terms of practices that we use for hiring, one is definitely our values. Does this potential teammate meet all of our values, and do they live those values? And another thing that we actually do is that every person that we bring onto the team, every exec also needs to meet with them and vet them as well, because it could be a fit with one person and may not be a fit with the other. So I think for us, it's really the cultural fit is extremely important. Of course, the competencies too, but a lot of those things you can learn along the way. But having the cultural fit and the same values, and that our values are aligned, is the most important factor that we look for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially when you're working at an early stage startup, it's not so much about the skills. Like you said, you can pick those up really quickly along the way, but you have to have that drive, and you have to have that hustle and the grit, because I'm sure there's a lot of rejection and things that.
For sure. Like, a startup environment is not for everybody, I'd have to say. And, it's like you said, you do need to have a lot of grit and a lot of passion and determination, and just having a positive outlook always, because being in a startup is challenging in itself, and being able to think positively about the future and where we want to get to is one of the most important things that every team member needs to have.
Awesome. So I think we'll cap it off at this question from Marlene. What's next for TREC Brands?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
Lots of more SKUs, lots of more brands. We're
definitely cannabis 2.0 products.
Yep.
As you heard, sorry to interrupt, Pete.
No, go.
But we signed an incredible partnership with Balance. So we'll be putting out, vape pens towards the end of the summer. We're currently testing and trying gummies and chocolates and some concentrates as well. So we're searching for partners to help make those products for us so that we can get them out to market for our end consumer.
Great. That's awesome. Super excited for you guys. I think there's a lot of cool things coming up, and I'm really excited to watch and to try some of those products. So one more question from me, and I like to ask this of everybody who comes onto our Fuckup AMAs. How do you guys define failure? What does it mean to you?
I think the way that I would answer that would be not being able to execute on the plan or objective. And in the case of, the first fuck up that I shared, with the group and with you folks was, we need to launch first product by date X, in time to do this. The fact that we weren't able to do so, and weren't able to execute on that plan, I mean, that's failure to me.
For me, it's quite similar. And I think for me, it's a little bit more personal as well, is that it's not being able to meet my own expectations of myself. So I feel that I definitely, for me, expect way more out of myself than sometimes, as we have on the plan on a page. So not meeting those expectations of myself, I feel is a failure. And I think that's why I personalize or take personally a lot of the fuck ups that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Seems like you guys think really deeply about it, and that's awesome. That's what Fuckup Nights is all about. I think a lot of people kind of misconstrue. We have this like edgy name, and people think that we're here to celebrate failure or to encourage people to fail, and that's not really the case. We're encouraging people to fail mindfully, to really think through the failure, to learn the lessons that are required, to share those lessons like you guys are doing right now. And then also just to really take the time to heal from it before you jump into the next thing. I think there's really there's sort of like a spectrum of failure. There's some small fuck ups that you can recover from really quickly. And then there's some failures that are absolutely devastating and can really take you back. So really being able to recognize the difference between those, being able to separate yourself from your failure, really recognizing that just because this thing failed doesn't mean that you as a person are a fuck up. You tried something, you took a risk, and you went for it. And it's only really a fuck up if you didn't learn something from it. And I think to cap it off, I just want to say that if you're not fucking up, especially in an early stage startup or as an entrepreneur, you're probably fucking up by default because you're playing it safe and you're not taking any risks and you're not innovating. So failure, innovation, it comes with being human. And yeah, so thank you so much to you guys for sharing your stories, for being so open. I'm sure that our viewers and our community have learned a lot from you. So honestly,
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Marcia. And for me, I'd love to leave it off as well with a quote that I really like to refer back to by Oprah. And she says, "Where there's no struggle, there's no strength." And I think that I think our team really stands by that as well, and that we continue to fuck up every day, but we're also getting stronger every day.
Absolutely, I love that quote. That's great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. Stick around here for a bit. I'm just going to make a couple more announcements and then we'll close things off. So thanks so much to everybody who tuned in. That was such a great conversation with TREC Brands. I'm sure that, even if you learned one thing from it that you were able to apply to your situation, totally a success. Great questions. Everybody who submitted their questions and comments. Really thank you for taking the time to jump in there. Thank you for asking such awesome questions and for really respecting our speakers and, coming at this with an open mind, just here to learn and, not to judge and really take their experiences and apply them to your own. So I want to say another huge thank you to our lead partner, Zero Accounting. So we kind of joke with Zero that, this product really exists to help you not fuck up your accounting. It makes it so easy, so beautiful. Everything is managed in the cloud. It's so easy to use. So we'll post it in the comments. Again, if you're still stuck in Excel spreadsheets, I really implore you to get out of that, make your life so much easier. Try Zero. And thank you again for really being here for us and being our lead partner and helping us bring Fuck Up Nights to life virtually. Also want to tell you guys about our next event that's coming up. So next week, we're trying out an evening time slot. We want to see if that works better for our community. And we have Trevor Kaverko, who's going to be doing a Fuck Up AMA with us. Trevor was a professional hockey player. He was an NHL draft pick for the New York Rangers. And he went through a pretty bad car accident where he was injured to the point that he couldn't play professional hockey anymore. He's doing okay now, but he had to completely change his life around, couldn't play professional sports anymore, and just everything changed in an instant for him. Now he's really doing really well in blockchain. He's the founder of Polymath, has a really interesting career in investing as well. And throughout his entire journey in professional sports, moving into tech, a lot of fuck ups along the way. You can trust me on that. So we're going to dive into a deep conversation with him next week. Also, I want to mention that we have a YouTube channel. So if you're tired of watching Netflix, if you've binged everything, you probably saw Tiger King already. I don't know what else there is to watch. Definitely hop onto our YouTube channel. We have hundreds of talks from our past events, from speakers from all different walks of life, all different industries, lots of different fuck ups, from like anything that you can imagine is probably there. Awesome speakers from across the Toronto ecosystem. So really encourage you to fuck up and chill instead of Netflix and chill. Also, if you have your own fuck up that you're dying to share, we have something that we created virtually, which is called the Fuck Up Wall. If you've ever been to one of our events in person, this is probably something that you recognize. This is really an opportunity for you to grab a Post-it and to share your own fuck up. Or you can just go on there and lurk others, but really encourage you to jump in there and share your own fuck up. You can DM it to us, or you could submit it anonymously through our website, fuckupwall.com. And with that, I just want to say thank you again to everybody who joined us. Really thank you again for your questions. And I hope that this conversation inspired you to think about failure in a little bit of a different way and inspired you to chat with those around you, maybe ask the bold question of what's your biggest fuck up. So with that, thank you again, everybody. Fail well.